Yeah.
What episode is this? Are we numbering them, by the way? Do we do that?
We are numbering them.
Okay.
And that's a great question.
Six
This
or
happens
seven?
to be 7.
Okay. Cool.
Lucky 7.
Yeah. Hi,
Elizabeth
everybody.
Holmes had a lot of luck.
Or not. I think if she had more
Well,
luck, she probably
up
wouldn't
until
have
a
been
point.
sentenced. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello,
Oh, yes.
everybody. Welcome to Marginal Advice, episode 7. Today, we focus on Theranos, which I know when I first heard it, I started pronouncing it Theranos. And then it's funny, actually. The first I ever said the word out loud, I think I was actually talking with my uncle, I believe, who is a cardiologist, and then he had a different pronunciation on it. And I was like, "Oh, yours is probably the right pronunciation," so I'll call it Theranos. From now on.
It is a cross between therapy and diagnosis, is where they got the name. So
makes sense.
Theranos.
Makes sense.
Yeah, when she made it, but it doesn't quite matter now, I suppose.
No, not exactly. It was all a pipe dream. Wait, did you actually make an intro?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay. I guess, well, we should back up for those not familiar. Theranos was a company that pledged to be able to run comprehensive blood tests on a prick.
Pinprick.
A prick of the finger. And that ended up not actually being possible. And
Well, because that was a revolutionary concept. No one had ever done anything like that before. And it turns out it's because you can't.
So the thing is, though, right? I don't want to rule out the possibility that there couldn't, at some point in the future, actually be a company that figures out a way to do it.
But with our current technology, and even maybe a little bit of a future technology, not something we can do.
Sure. I've read, I remember reading an article about one of the companies that's done tests for COVID, blood tests for COVID. They have a machine that is able to do it with a very small quantity of blood. And a lot of that has actually been used for COVID testing.
Yeah.
But
one test?
No. They claim on their machine, that was one of the applications that it was used quite a lot for. But they claim they are able to do a wide swath of tests. And I think they've had FDA approval on some of them. I forget the name of the machine, but it's not able to be as comprehensive as a standard, you pull the vials of blood out of your arm, which just, I hate it so much. Oh God, I hate needles.
What just happened?
I'm just thinking about blood tests and blood being pulled from my arm and how much I really want something like Theranos to work and exist because of, I can't even watch clips in shows and movies when someone is getting an injection because it just, I hate it. I hate it so much.
Oh, man. So are we not going to be able to show this full surgery video I've got pulled up for us to watch?
Maybe not. I don't know.
Well,
sorry for everybody who came here for the surgery and blood drawing clips. I might have to put a stop to that. But anyway, so there are steps in that direction. There are steps in the direction of this sort of, micro blood drawing testing potentially becoming a reality at some point. But Theranos, they jumped the gun a little bit on it actually being a reality and may have overpromised and under-delivered a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But also, supposedly Elizabeth Holmes also hates needles. Her great-great-grandfather was a surgeon, I believe. And that's what inspired her to go into medicine. But she hated needles, so she thought, let's start Theranos, where you could just get a pinprick, and that would be it. And she...
amen to the hating needles part.
Good idea, yeah.
Yeah, it's
we'll work on the execution.
There are a lot of things out there that are great ideas. It'd be really cool, for example, if I could have some shoes that had little jetpacks in them that could get me to dunk a basketball. And it sounds like a great idea, maybe just not really doable.
Jordan, would you like to start a company with me? It's called World Peace. I think we have some really great ideas brewing. I think we can do some great things here.
I thought you were going to say we should start a company called Air Jordan and
oh my God. How do you had to have thought of that before in your life and you've been waiting to say it.
I mean, it just all kind of came together, you know. I played basketball when I was younger, so
oh yeah.
Yeah. Then I didn't grow enough, but different story.
You should have went pro NBA.
I should have. Muggsy Bogues. It could have been me.
I forgot my small bottle, so I just have this.
Okay. I thought you were about to like do a little playing like a note from the jug or something.
Oh, I do, but I just do that every time I take a sip from anything. I go. I normally go 2 of them, but it's harder to do with the gallon. I go.
You're not hitting the noise gate on the mic well enough. You got to get a little closer. Still not coming through. I'm
going to overlay a train sound over that just to make it.
Yeah. God dang noise gate. So anyway, yeah. So I guess we should mention Elizabeth Holmes is the founder or was the founder and CEO of Theranos and did it out of Stanford without like a background in actually being a doctor. I feel like it all kind of boils down to the fact that it was like a tech vision, not one that was backed up by her being a doctor.
Yeah, and that was a lot of the engineers they hired as well, and even the COO was that what Sonny was?
Yeah.
The COO. He was also from a tech background, and the people who were actually from a medical background were on the lower levels, actually working with the technology. They weren't really being listened to. A lot of people with actual medical backgrounds weren't being heard because Elizabeth Holmes was such a good communicator that she enchanted everyone to believing in this vision of the new wave of medical technology, even though she herself dropped out of Stanford to pursue this before she had any formal extensive training in the medical field. And so there was a lot of kind of, what's that called? Corporate speak, gobbledygook kind of things to make it sound smart and like she knew what she was talking about, but she really was she was lying the entire time, and she became quite good at it.
It's interesting because it is a product that you would expect. Well, so they worked on developing a machine that would be able to run all the tests on a pinprick of blood, and you would expect for this sort of company that you would fill it to the brim with people who have had a lifetime of medical expertise. And you would also expect that VC investors in a company like this would say, hey, okay, so this sounds like a great idea. Who do you have on the team? What sort of backgrounds do they have? And somehow all of this completely slipped through the cracks. And they had like a board of directors with people like Henry Kissinger and James Mattis, and it's like, okay, these are high-powered political figures,
not medical figures. Yeah,
and you got to wonder, like, how I'm sure they have insight to some extent somehow for stuff, but like, how does that really tie into diagnosing things and running tests on running blood tests? And it's just like there's a mismatch there, but I don't know. It's just like playing League of Legends gets you really big investments.
I was going to bring that up. I was going to say, I think as we delve more into these types of stories, we may learn it is easier to get venture capital money than we may expect. Because all these people are just getting them without actually doing anything of significance.
It's I feel like you would expect that the FOMO would be something reserved for like a novice amateur investor, but it just seems like you have a spider thing going on your end.
Oh no, actually this time it's much more pleasant. I just
okay.
There's a whole murder of crows that goes by every now and then, and they just fly
love
by.
a good murder every now and again.
I know. Elizabeth Holmes might have done some of them over her course of this testing.
Whoa. Allegedly, not even. I don't even know if that's actually part of the.
Anyway, not on purpose, just through blood tests that weren't correct in any way.
Incorrect medical conclusions. Possibly, we have that information. We do not know. We're not making accusations of that sort of magnitude.
She had, sky high expectations and promises, as high as the crows right there in the sky. So there's your tie-in. It wasn't completely unrelated. Anyway, please continue, Jordan. Yes.
What was I saying? Anyway, just about how you would think that FOMO would kind of be reserved for novice investors, but it just seems like you have all these instances of VCs being like, okay, well, I mean, they have got all these high-profile people on the board. Sure, they're not medical related, but like these people wouldn't be getting duped. They would know what they're doing, right? And so, I mean, this has to be a good investment. This is going to blow up.
The co-founder of Oracle invested into this. Yeah. He knows what he's doing.
And so you're just like, okay, I guess, I mean, this has got to be the deal of a lifetime. I can't pass on this. I'm not gonna ask for any board seats. I'm not gonna take a bunch of time to do due diligence and ensure that this is actually possible. It's just, you know what, I'll take it at face value. You say that you're going to be able to do blood tests on a pinprick. I'm not going to talk to any doctors, any medical professionals just to confirm advice here. I'm gonna just go for it. And it's interesting, actually, because I think I heard that Bill Gates had an opportunity to invest in Theranos, and he did not do it. And possibly that would be because he maybe has been more hands-on on a lot of medical-related endeavors with the Bill Gates Foundation. And maybe he would have been a little bit more skeptical about being able to follow through on those claims.
Yeah, because from anecdotes I've heard from medical professionals talking about this and former employees that were in there doing the research, it was a lot of them saying, yeah, normal people might think this is fine, but having a long-standing background in medical science, this is ridiculous. One pinprick cannot be doing this. Phlebotomists were weighing in saying, no, obviously it wasn't. We were waiting for this to come out or something. So it was very much a case of those in the know about what was happening were not big enough players to make a difference.
It is interesting because I brought up my uncle, and I remember in that, I forget what we were having. I was like a family dinner.
Did he say the same?
And yeah, it was like a family dinner, and I saw something came up about like blood testing, and because oftentimes we end up talking about medical related things given his career and field of expertise. And I had just like heard about Theranos at that time, and I remember bringing it up and him being like,
Uncle got it right.
Yeah, so he was right about that.
Did you talk to him recently after she was sentenced or after it all came out? And
no, I don't think so.
That'll be a nice thing if you see him at Christmas. I say, hey, you were right. You cardiologist, you know what you're talking about.
I'm sure he was well aware of the whole proceedings and all that stuff. But yeah, that was interesting to recall, like his, and I was kind of taken aback though, because it was like, you expect that if you read a headline and this is a product that's going into Walgreens, like there has to have been some, serious due diligence.
Someone has to have looked at this one time, right?
Well, because this is like I feel like there are different echelons of fraudulent claims on a product, right? Like you have, on one hand, if we're going to tie it back into FTX or something, which we just talked about, it's like, yes, people lost money, obviously, and that can have a detrimental impact on somebody's life. But ultimately, you still have your health at that point, most likely. This, you can make an incorrect medical conclusion and possibly, in a worst case scenario,
create a flock of crows.
Someone. Yes. You could not diagnose something, you could misdiagnose and then treat it improperly. Like, there's a lot that can go wrong. The stakes are super high, and you have people's lives on the line directly from mishandling something like this. And I think that's why it is so much more of a big deal than perhaps other cases of corporate fraud.
Yeah, and they did at one point, I believe, with Pfizer. They had permission to do blood tests on cancer patients, and so a lot of the tests came back negative. Said, yeah, you're fine, but it's because they dilute the sample way too much to get proper readings. And then later on, these cancer patients had to come back in at a worse stage because of this fraud that they were. It's just a horrible thing.
Yeah.
All around. And she never once stepped back on it. Elizabeth Holmes continuously pushed as being the greatest thing mankind has ever done. And it's just...
I can't imagine getting to the point of deciding between, okay, so I know we don't have a working machine, so I could either just be honest with the investors and tell them, you know what, we weren't able to execute and make this happen, or I can lie to Walgreens and I can lie to Pfizer and lie to the investors and say, you know what, yeah, we have the ability to do this, and manage to get them to believe you and actually continue faking it until you hopefully make it. Like, I can't imagine, as stressful as it would probably be to be like, you know what, it didn't work. It happens. When you are a venture capitalist, you expect maybe 10-20% of your companies have a future to them. And so most of the people are probably going to be like, you know what, it happens. That's part of what's up with investing. But to just be unable to face the music and then endanger people's lives is like, I just can't fathom making that decision. Yeah,
this is definitely, of all the frauds and the different things we've gone through, it's episode 7, but above the things we've gone through,
it's been a long 6 episodes, man.
Yeah, really. This has got to be one of the worst ones we will probably ever do, because this is, as you said, money is maybe an indirect, gives an indirect effect on people's lives, but this is an actual direct, this is wrong, and it will physically hurt you type of thing. And it's, I mean, the word sociopath gets thrown thrown around a lot, but I think Elizabeth Holmes definitely fits more than most cases that people label.
It's interesting because she, obviously, she really tried to like emulate the Steve Jobs persona with the way
Steve
that
Jobs
she
was
dressed.
her idol.
And
not just the way that she dressed, the way she never took vacations. She worked her employees to all hours of the night. She pitted teams against each other, just like them, except instead of one team being better than the other, she would fire the team that didn't work out. But I believe someone found a clipping of a newspaper that said the next Steve Jobs with her picture on it on her desk. She kept that. And so she was obsessed with being like Steve Jobs. And continue. Sorry. No,
the other thing though, that was like the voice thing. 'Cause she like, look, I'm not here to make fun of anybody's voice, but there were instances where she actually like stopped talking in the really like deep voice that she would have in all of her interviews and stuff. There were a couple instances where it kind of like it cracked for a second and then she like went back. It's like she had a character essentially that she was playing, and actually changed her voice in order to suit that character. Had you not caught any of that before?
No, I'm not sure I know what you're talking about. Do you think you can give me some specific examples? We actually have a specific example.
Okay, you have it. Good. I'm glad I led into a link you've got.
Over the last 11 years, we've reinvented the traditional laboratory infrastructure.
And we talked to our lab team, and they said, okay, you can do the draw. And so they did this, what would have been a finger stick on this little nub on his arm.
Sure. Yeah. Over the last 11 years, we've reinvented.
It feels like it's got to be painful to do that over an extended
Yeah, I think
period
it
of
is.
time.
Optimus Prime collects your blood.
Autobots, roll out.
She sounds like she's going, the dark side of the Force is something you cannot escape, Ray. What's his name? Adam Driver?
Yeah.
I'll take your blood.
Yeah, just I don't know. Maybe it speaks to like the Silicon Valley VC culture that she thought she had to do that in order to be taken more seriously, which is really weird.
I mean, I suppose it worked.
I wish there was a way to like know how much of the being taken seriously and getting investors to invest was based on that persona of which the deep voice was part of.
Yeah. Huh. This is my billionaire voice.
Yeah.
This is how I get the money.
I guess I don't personally think that there is like, if I am to look at someone's trustworthiness, the pitch of their voice is not necessarily part of that calculation. I don't think. Maybe it's like totally unconscious, but it just...
Jordan, you're just not a venture capitalist. I don't know what to tell you.
I guess not. And I guess until I get to the point of being able to judge people on their voice, maybe I won't be. But also maybe that's a good thing, because then I won't have been duped in
invested into
like
Theranos or FTX while people are playing League of Legends or deepening their voice.
See, I don't know. Maybe gimmicks are like a thing that some people like and they buy into.
Well,
I'm very
I don't
much
think it was. Go ahead.
I don't know. I feel like I don't really look into gimmicks or whatever. I don't know.
I don't think it was widely known. People may have thought, "Oh, is that her real voice?" But I don't think they were. I don't think everyone at the time, at least, was thinking,
"Sure, yeah,
she's just doing that. That's weird." So,
and you also don't want to ask somebody when they're like, "Are you speaking in your real voice right now?"
Jordan, you can't just ask people if that's their real voice.
You can't. No, that's like a really rude question to ask somebody. So,
but even outside of there were also little slip ups that some employees talked about where it was the end of a long day, and towards the beginning, an employee came into her office and she spoke normally, and then she transitions down to like this. You probably saw in that interview you were talking about where she forgets and then she transitions down.
Yeah.
And so it's just one of many interesting little idiosyncrasies that Elizabeth Holmes put on to try and get people onto her Theranos fraud.
And I know that there was an aspect of it where the COO, who was appointed later, so that the COO, Sonny, they were in a relationship, and it started when she was 19 and he was 37.
Yeah, a little bit.
I think.
Yeah, a little kind of weird there, because when she went on a trip with her university, Stanford, they went to Beijing, and he was there, and that's when they met. And after she dropped out, they kept in touch. It feels strange.
So I know there was actually a part of the trial where there was like an abuse claim element. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
she alleges it's his doing and she was just a pawn. But you can't know.
Yeah, there's no way to know for sure. But 37 and 19, super wealthy 37-year-old dude and someone who just dropped out of school at 19 there is a very strange power dynamic going on there. And so I don't doubt that relationship probably was an element in pushing things further, but I don't know that. Obviously, as it has been decided by the courts, she is not absolved of blame.
Yeah. Luckily, I mean, I wouldn't have been so extremely surprised if she only got a year or two, but she got a bit over 11 years, which is, and because it's a federal charge, she is legally required to serve at least 85% of that. Even if she has good behavior, she can't get off in a few years. 85% is the minimum amount of time she must spend. Her lawyers have already appealed it, of course, but I think there will be at least a little bit of justice here.
So what's so interesting to me, though, about the trial and the charges is it's actually about the investors, right?
It always is. It's never about the people.
Yeah.
It's only the investors. That's the secret. All these people get into venture capital. Here's the Marginal Advice podcast of the day advice, right? You don't need to know anything or do anything of significance to become a billionaire. You just need to max out your charisma. Your social skills, just min-max that all the way. Pedal to the metal. If you can do that, you're good. Learn how to start a business. Doesn't matter what business. Just start one. Venture capital, 1 million points into your social skills, the venture capital people. And then here's the main thing, right? As long as you steal from regular people and not your investors, you're good. You get to go home with the money.
Oh, God.
That's all you got to do.
Yeah. So the reason why she has just been sentenced to 11 years is for wire fraud. It's not because of jeopardizing people's lives with incorrect medical diagnoses. It's because she made false statements to investors. And the really interesting part, though, is like the majority of the VC funds and investors didn't actually do anything to try to bring this to court because they don't want to be looked at by future companies that they might want to invest in or peers in the space as like, well, they might take legal action against me if I am, not successful or something like that. And they don't want, these VCs don't want to be seen that way. So they're just like, whatever, we'll mark it down to zero. It is what it is. There was just like a handful that did actually bring it to court. But again, the trial was about fraud to misleading investors and not like criminal negligence or jeopardizing lives. And it's just like, that's the weirdest part to me about the whole thing. Like if she hadn't bilked wealthy investors out of money, would she have been fine? Would she have been fine? That's what I want to know. Like, would there just not, it would have been like, I guess it happens.
Well, Oop, you're dead. Sorry.
I don't, and I want to know if that's just because they thought that this...
It was the easiest thing to push at a...
Yeah. Is this the easiest thing to prosecute? Did they think there wasn't as much of a chance on the other charges and just decided not to pursue it? Like, it just seems like unfair to me that like, even though she is going to be behind bars, it's
for the
because
investors.
Somebody
it's not
who
for the people.
Probably was going to be fine if their investment got marked down to zero, lost their money.
Yeah.
And if you are putting your money into early stage companies as a VC, like you are certifying, you're literally checking a box saying that this is a small amount of your net worth you make over either $250,000 a year, you have a minimum net worth of $1 million, and you're aware of the risks. You know that this is probably going to go to zero. And so everybody who's putting money in there, they can live if it goes to zero because that's part of the business.
Yeah.
But
the people who are getting affected by this company physically cannot continue to live because of it if the things go wrong. But they don't really matter.
It's strange.
Unfortunate. And that's the trend as well. You've seen in past cases. There's a lot of, if these big things blow up, there's a lot of prosecution because of the investors and not the other stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But what were you about to say?
Oh, I was just going to say that. So as things got really deep into being bad, they basically, so they developed a few iterations of their machine. I think the most prominently known one was the Edison machine. Yes. And which seems like not a good name to call the machine given the history of Edison. I think it is
a good name
to
call
the
apt, machine.
But if you're if you're thinking how do we not kind of, attribute this to maybe the wrong undertones, you'd think you wouldn't want to name it the Edison machine.
Well, yeah. They named it the Edison machine because the quote that Elizabeth was going for was, she says, this is an Edison quote, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." And she said, it relates to the 10,001st way is the one to work. And she says, yes, we did it. I assume she was referring to the 10,000 failures, not the 10,001st one. But she definitely lived up to the Edison name.
Yeah. So it's they went into business, the big contract that they got was with Walgreens and doing blood tests with Walgreens. And
they actually got it into some of the stores, yeah.
But they were also doing, instead of actually using their own machines for many of the tests, they ended up just shipping off to labs.
That's how they pulled it off for so many years. They said, okay, here's a pinprick. Haha, woo, oh, nanovial. We're going to put this in our little machine here, and we're going to get 240 different tests here. We're going to get all this different tests out of it. Okay? All right. See you tomorrow. We're going to go do that. You have a good day. You get out. We're going to do it right now. As soon as you leave, we're going to do that. Okay? Why are you still here? Go on. And then they just shipped it off to the machines that already do the blood testing with more blood. And they said, look at these results that we got while you were gone. Aren't they fantastic? Wow. And then the few results that they did actually do on their machines were wildly inaccurate and were not at all doing what they claimed.
The thing that I don't understand, and maybe I just didn't dig enough, is how did you have these labs that were receiving these tiny quantities of blood not going, what the frick is this? We can't do this properly. Are these real people? Did Theranos tell these labs these are just these are tests for not important, just tests. Do what you can with it. Because how do you get away with that without someone I can understand how employees would not want to lose their job, feel they don't want to be cast out and be the black sheep. But when it's a third party company, I'm just wondering how did it slip through without someone being what the frick is what is this? What the heck? Are these supposed to be real blood tests? Because we can't do this. So
I think I saw when they shipped them off to the real machines, they either they were diluted, or if they were testing them for people saying, hey, look, we just took this blood test. We're going to go test it now. I believe they took more blood from the testing patient and they used it then. But
at which point isn't the patient going I thought I only had to do a pinprick. What gives?
Oh, we're just comparing it to make sure that we have the same info as the regular machines. So we're gonna also put these on the regular machines.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, but I could have just gone to my doctor's if I wanted to get all this blood taken out of my arm.
Have you ever thought about advancing mankind? You think about that? Maybe.
Not usually when I'm getting my blood drawn. No, that's the last thing on my mind. I'm just closing my eyes and wanting it to be done personally. But yeah, I mean, I would have loved for it to be true. I would have rooted for nothing more than for this to actually work, because that would it would make things so much easier. And selfishly, I wouldn't feel like I'm going to pass out because I'm having so much blood drawn from my arm and I hate it so much. And oh my God.
Do you get to almost passing out when you get blood taken, even if you don't look at it?
No, so not like full on passing out, but it's just it's mentally more uncomfortable than it is like physically painful. The only time that I ever actually started like getting close to what I think was probably a panic attack. I don't like get panic attacks, so I don't know exactly how to quantify what that is. But it was when I was having a procedure done where I had to be put under anesthesia. They were getting the IV in for that, and because they say don't drink water or eat anything for like 8 hours prior, you have it's hard to spot your veins and get in. So they're going like 5 times trying to get it into my elbow here, and it's like not working. I'm like. And then they're like, okay, well, the elbow's not working, so now we are going to try the top of your palm. And I was like, no, but that's like bony, and that's
I know,
terrible.
I don't exactly.
And then they just keep missing, and they keep missing in the top of my hand, and I'm just
sorry.
like, I'm like flipping out. It's laying back on this bed that they're going to wheel into the room, and I was very close to having a panic attack. But I will say, I think the best I've ever felt in my life was waking up from that with whatever they've given me. I was like, whew.
Man, this is pretty good, actually. I can get a few more jabs of this.
Yeah. So.
Man, I'm sorry. Because when I've had the few times I've had blood taken or something, they've managed to get it in on the first, maybe second try. I can't. Having him do it was
like
again,
10 times,
and then again and again.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry, Jordan.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that was only that time. Anytime it's just been like blood drawn for a blood test, it's easy and it happens the first time.
Oh, okay.
But it was because of, if you go 8 hours without drinking water or consuming anything, or probably more than 8 hours, you like don't see your veins. So that was
Well, man, let's drink some water. Just thinking about that, really.
Yep. Cheers to that. I like seeing my veins. It makes things easier. I want to be vascular.
Is that origin stories of getting bulked up so you can be vascular, so they can always find your vein.
Exactly. Yes. That is definitely why. Mm-hmm.
I have this swell thing where not all the time, but sometimes if I get any pressure difference, blood taken, vaccine administered, doesn't matter. I almost not because of the needles. I just kind of almost pass out. And
What do you mean a pressure difference?
I don't know if it's the pressure difference, but I thought the first time I had a vaccine put into me, I almost passed out, and they were like, oh, that's weird. Oh, it's because you had blood taken earlier. I was like, okay. So then I had blood taken at a different point, and that happened again. So I suppose I should have said the blood thing first, but because it's normal if you get blood taken to maybe get a little woozy. Yeah. But I also, when I get vaccine, sometimes I'll also have it happen, which confuses me. So
I don't know. Maybe it's just a needle thing, which is totally, I get that. Vaccine, blood drawn. It doesn't matter. Things are going in, things are going out. I'm not having a good time. It's just.
I don't have a problem looking at the needle, though. It's just
really?
Because it's not. It's more so after it's done. And they said, all right, it's all done. They put the tape on it. I'm like, okay.
Really? Oh, no, I've not. I've not had issues with the aftermath. It is purely the needle thing. Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Well, I ordered a whole bunch of gifts off of Amazon last night. For a bunch of people, let me actually cancel your box of needles if you're not going to want that.
I thought you actually were like
From
having
Amazon.
to, you're like, I have to go to the door to get all these things that I ordered yesterday. Anyway, we've digressed a little bit from the Theranos thing.
Saying all of that, we wish that Theranos, and a lot of other people, I'm sure, also wish that Theranos was what it said it could be.
I without any medical background, I feel like there are, if you look at, where humanity was at 100 years ago and all the technology that has been derived since, and you look at someone in the 1920s and now we have a mobile computer in our pocket that can access any data in the world and talk to anyone, it wouldn't surprise me if in the next 20 years, maybe even less, there is a possibility for a blood test to work on a much smaller draw, even a pinprick. Who knows? I want to keep the hopium alive, but I would certainly hope that whatever company is able to pursue that, they're honest with what they're capable of, and don't put people's lives in jeopardy. And I'd like to think that every time you hear a story like this, that it maybe makes it less likely for the same thing to happen in the future. And
Hopefully.
I do think we're in a bit of an era here that might be coming to a close of just too much frothy capital trying to look for a home and just disregarding due diligence because, you've seen all these other companies that have blown up. You don't want to miss out on the next Facebook, the next Uber. And so you're like, you know what? I gotta be in. Look, I don't know much about medicine. I just exited out of my
Elizabeth Holmes fella seems to.
I exited out of my tech company. I got a lot of money and I want it, but I don't want to miss out on doing it again. So I do think that potentially we are, with, rates raising and whatnot, entering possibly a more cautionary era. I mean, it'll as soon as people are feeling more confident again, then this sort of approach of kind of disregarding due diligence will come back. Humans naturally are always trying to kind of front run growth to the best of their ability. And, as soon as it seems like a safer environment, they'll probably just go back to old habits. But maybe you can hope that there will be a little bit more caution in the future. I don't know.
Yeah, that's not a wholesome statement, but I believe it was a very heartfelt statement. It's something we could all hope for, and if not, Jordan, have you ever thought about starting a company?
Yeah, I have one for making YouTube videos.
Oh, that's right.
So yes, it's very easy to start a company. All you do is go to a website and it helps you start a company, or you talk to a lawyer and they start a corporation, and then you get a tax ID number, and you can have a company for the low price of probably a couple $100 or something like that. If you want to say that you're a small business owner, it's not that hard to be able to make that claim accurately. Making it successful is another thing, though, obviously.
Yeah, just, be good with people and communication, and you can do it.
Well,
Sam Bankman-Fried, Elizabeth Holmes,
all
these people.
That's actually an interesting thing, though, because I do think that's very true, that the most important skill that you can have in trying to make your way up in the world is the ability to communicate with other people well. And you can almost fake it till you make it in that sort of situation outside of obviously perpetuating fraud or something like that, if you're able to, communicate well with others and you can deliver on the things that you tell people, that is the most important thing that you can do, really. And the raw factual educational knowledge, I think, comes second to that, probably.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that even if you do have an idea that can actually end up being something great and a company that has huge potential for really good change in the world, it won't go anywhere if you aren't as good of a marketer as someone who maybe has the exact same company that can't do it and they're just lying, but they have the better skills to communicate that vision than the person who has an honest company. And it's a real unfortunate thing that they may not have the same funding just because of that.
And there is, like, between Elizabeth Holmes and Sam Bankman-Fried, there is a pattern of, they have a family with connections that's able to assist in productions.
Her father worked with Enron. Did you see that?
I didn't actually see that. Okay.
Yeah, her father was part of Enron, so the apple doesn't fall far from.
And the Enron
the
dissolution attorney is working in the FTX bankruptcy.
Yes,
wow, it all just ties together.
We're going to do an episode on Enron, but I feel like we have to save it for like episode 50 or something.
And then we'll be able to connect how Enron actually is the brainchild and like
everything. We'll have a physical set by then, and we'll have the board with all the sticky notes and the string and the red strings and everything. And Enron will be at the center of it all. The biggest fraud ever done.
Can we actually figure out? Are we going to be prominent enough at that point to like find the
hire
big,
Charlie Day?
The logo, like a big statue of the E logo or something like that for Enron that we can have on the set. Like it's an Enron office building or something.
Our Enron
like that.
altar.
Yeah.
Our blood sacrifices to the biggest fraud, the mother of all frauds, Moaf.
Is it still the mother of all fraud? I feel like it's probably been eclipsed since then. I don't know. I haven't dug enough, but obviously it's brand, as far as brand names of fraud go, Enron is pretty up there. Yeah,
they're pretty up there. Pretty close to Bernie Madoff. As a person. Enron would be the company version of knowing someone that's a fraudster. By the way, that being a legal term, fraudster, that's kind of funny to me. That sounds like a 1940s gangster term. Like, yeah, he was a fraudster. It sounds like someone who would say that in a pinstripe suit.
Maybe it was popularized at that point or something. I don't know.
It could have been, but. Anyway, speaking of fraud, back to Theranos.
Yes.
We just deviated some. But so all of these claims that they were making that their Edison machine could do, this one machine who could do over 240 tests from this one pinprick of blood. Here are the tests that they claim to be able to do.
Oh, okay.
This actually, their Theranos site is down. This is a web internet archive of the Theranos site.
Theranos.com/test menu.
Yeah. See, now you wouldn't go to a grocery store that didn't have price tags. Why should getting a blood test be any different? You also normally get real food at a grocery store and not plastic toys. So
it's like the grocery store for, what was the movie where they went to it was like Seth Rogen went to North Korea and they had like the fake grocery store or something like that.
It was, this is the dumbest thing I could say. Yeah. The movie started with the.
Good. That narrows it down a little bit.
You know which one I'm talking about?
It could be the Ranos as well.
We talked about that earlier. I'm glad you brought that up. Luckily, there was only one Ranos. Otherwise, there could have been some major problems. But The Interview, that was the movie. But yeah, if you scroll down here, it has all of the tests and the prices for pretty cheap. All the stuff that they could do. And where are you?
Oh, I'm at the M's right now. I'm at the marijuana THCs.
Yeah. If you look into this, it tests for anything and everything you can think of. Protein and urine, our red blood cell count, renal, if you scroll up, sodium. It can sex hormone binding globulin, syphilis. If you scroll up, it tests for cocaine. It tests for any and everything you can test for. It's in here. And scroll back up to H.
All right. Let's see.
Say to like the end of H there, right? What's that HSV1 say?
Herpes simplex.
Yes. Herpes simplex 1. That is the one and only test they were ever FDA approved to do. For $8.98 US. You could be USDs. That's the
USDA.
USDA.
FDA.
You can be FDA approved test. Out of all their 240 tests and the over a decade of their company existing at that point, that's the one. Herpes simplex 1. You could be rest assured if you had that and you used their machine, it's the future, baby. That's mankind's greatest achievement.
I'm sure that is a pretty regularly done test. I don't know if it would bring in enough in order to justify a $9 billion valuation for the company just being able to perform that test. But
but that's the thing. It's unfortunate in a different way, because from an account I read, I didn't note it down here, so I can't bring it up, but supposedly these machines weren't working because, well, people know this was fact. They weren't working because there were too many testing modules in one little space. They were hurting each other because of heat, different light refraction. They can't do it in all one box. That alongside the low volume of blood. Yeah. But if someone who had assessed it claimed that if they just split the box into 3 different boxes, that could do, granted, not as many tests, but still a large number, they could still use a little amount of blood and do those tests properly to a point where they could probably stay positive as an honest company doing blood work that could make a dent in the industry. But Elizabeth Holmes refused because that was not the vision. And so
it's got to be sleek. It's got to be one machine, handheld,
magic box,
tabletop that can do everything. Otherwise,
the black box in more ways than one. No one could look inside of it, not even investors. And it was a black box that could do anything and everything, but you couldn't know how. And the how, the secret ingredient, as they say, is crime.
They wanted it to be like the YouTube algorithm black box that nobody actually knows how it works. But at the end of the day, it spits out videos. And they wanted it to be the mystery box that spits out diagnoses. You're like, but how are you doing this? Well, nobody knows, even our own engineers.
Find out next week when we get indicted on fraud charges.
So it's, but I guess we should mention
GPT-3 here.
What was that?
I'm sorry, that the YouTube black box algorithm, it reminded me of the Chat GPT thing that's going around. I wish we could talk about that here, but it doesn't really relate to.
It's not really a finance thing, but
yeah,
maybe we can find a way to connect it. Maybe.
Yeah. Anyway,
how Chat GPT-3 can give you stock picks or something like that.
Hey, if you ask Chat GPT right now, if it can take your blood and give you some results, it probably has the same amount of accuracy as Theranos just doing it.
Don't worry. Eventually, it'll be smart enough to like look through your webcam and be able to just detect what's wrong with you or something like that.
Because the Apple Watch, doesn't it look at the color with the green light, the color of your skin?
I don't know the specifics on how Apple Watch. Okay.
because apparently it does something actually correct with the blood monitoring. I haven't looked into exactly what it's doing, but it's interesting.
I guess it's probably worth mentioning how it actually like all came crashing down, because for a while they were getting away with it, right? And they were able to get their machines into Walgreens and do tests there. And it was, I think it was 2015, there was a Wall Street Journal article where they were able to get some whistleblowing happening and basically publish that, so this doesn't work. And
when Holmes got wind of a Wall Street Journal article possibly brewing about it, they first of all employees, they were getting thrown non-disclosure agreements left and right. Sign it when they started, sign it when they got out. They hired, around the Wall Street Journal time, I believe they hired private investigators for anyone they suspected to be talking to the Wall Street Journal. Past employees came out of the woodwork and said, hey, anonymously, this is not going so well in there, let me tell you. Mm-hmm. And so they gathered, as you said, enough whistleblowers to start it. And then the investors were thinking, wait a minute, let's hold on now. I know that some people might have gotten injured, but what do you mean my investment's not going to go out, as you said? What was that saying? Because also, is it the head of the Wall Street Journal who is also an investor at Theranos?
Was it? Okay.
Someone high up in the Wall Street Journal, and Holmes said, hey, put a stop to this story right now. And he said, I'm leaving it to the editors to find the truth. And he didn't, which good on him for doing that.
Well, I mean, I'm sure he could have faced some charges himself.
That was also probably a good idea on his part.
I think that was probably self-preservation. Like, if this is actually, if your company is not doing good things, then I don't want to be a part of that either. So,
and you know about Ian Gibbons, the scientist?
Oh, is he the one who took pills?
Yes. It took a bunch of Tylenol and drank wine a day before he was set to testify.
That was on a different case, though. That was
that was in the past.
That was a patent case, I think. But he thought that he was going to have to essentially like tank the company and get himself blacklisted from the industry, and it would be too old to get rehired or something like that. Just a really tragic. So I felt we had to mention it because it was kind of a big thing, and just one of the many terrible things that happened with this particular one. But when the Wall Street Journal came out, that's when investigations started, and investors not only started pulling out, but started suing one by one. People started. That said, though, again, a lot did not sue because they didn't want to be viewed as like a risk for future investments. Right.
But Safeway, I believe, also because of Safeway didn't go down, but they had to get bought out by a different company mostly because of their ties to Theranos and how much money Safeway lost because of it's a horrible situation all around. But there are some updates now with the case and things going on around it. Elizabeth Holmes and COO/intimate relationship partner in the past, Sonny, they have been sentenced to federal prison. And so, interestingly, Elizabeth Holmes got almost 2 years less than Sonny did, which is debatably, we don't know exactly why. Did you hear about why? What the charges were?
Oh no, I didn't know why the difference in sentencing. No.
I wasn't able to find it. It just recently happened.
Yeah. No, this is in like the last week or two.
Yeah. And so as we've said before, her attorneys have appealed the decision, but it's also tragic that after she was criminally charged, she had 2 kids between then and now. She's going to go to jail for over a decade.
That was actually one thing that I did see is, so she had kids, and I think they tried to like kind of appeal that to the jury in the trial and be like, hey, no,
this is a mother. You're going to take her away from her kids, which makes it so much worse because
childbearing almost. It's like,
yes, that. If that's true, which given what she's done in the past, it could be. Oh my God. Not only are you possibly, not only is she possibly risking lives to get herself ahead, she's also creating lives to get herself ahead. I don't think this comes out as an equal sum game. You can't just make up for I don't think that's how this works, Liz.
So one of the whistleblowers, though, actually, because of the prospect of the kids growing up without a mom, like went over to her house and ended up talking with, I can't remember if it was the husband or ex-husband, partner, ex-partner, and having a conversation, and he said, I think he somehow expressed like his concern for the kids, like directly saying and saying he wanted to have a conversation with Elizabeth Holmes or something like that. And obviously this is like just a huge no-no for a plaintiff's witness to go on their own and try to talk to the defendant in the case. And so the Elizabeth Holmes attorneys tried to use that in order to get a mistrial. Yeah, saying that like, oh, he was told to, he went over there to say that he was told to embellish the story to make it look worse than it actually was. So they tried to like use that in order to, get a do-over, basically. And yeah, so I mean, the having kids actually played more of a role in the trial than you might have initially expected, which is just.
You know what? This might be controversial, but I think I'm going to say it. Elizabeth Holmes, bad.
Brave. Very brave.
Thank you. I'll be public speaking at a TED Talk event to express my opinions on different aspects of morality.
Good. I'll be in attendance. Hopefully some other people will too. But I'll be cheering you on if no one else.
Thank you so much.
Anyway, yeah, that's where things are at now. She and Sonny, your former partner, they have both been sentenced to prison, and it was due to deceiving investors. Not for the.
I mean, the other stuff doesn't really matter. If you have investors and you deceive them, you're essentially. I mean, you're going to hell, I guess.
So anyway, that was the strangest part of the whole situation.
I hardly know her.
Right. Well, anything else?
Yeah. So, no. I mean, this was a bit more of a bit of a downer episode, just because of how bad, how tragic it was, and how much people's health were affected, different people's lives. But hey, at least it ended a little more justically. A little more just. It ended a little more just than
justly.
Yeah. Justly.
Justically. Justly is a word, so you're gonna stick with that one.
Yeah, it ended a little more justically than you may have expected, because they actually were sentenced to over a decade in federal prison. And so they can't, I don't think they can worm out of that one like a lot of these high profile cases usually do. So at least in the end, we can say something was done, which you can't always say.
That is true. Well, I mean, in the case of something like FTX, we'll just have to keep watching and see what happens. Because we'll see. It's
also strange in reading about all of this. There were comments mixed in because since they were just sentenced, different comments were saying, sentence Sam Bankman-Fried next, do something about SBF. And it was kind of strange to see SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, FTX, all of this in the same kind of realm as this Theranos thing, because all of this Theranos' downfall happened a couple years before COVID is when it really started ramping up. And so it just feels like a different era when this happened. So to have FTX and Theranos kind of mixed in with the same discussion is kind of a strange, it feels like two different times.
The wheels of justice turn very, very slowly. And I don't think anyone associated with FTX is going to face any indictments for quite some time while they gather the evidence and have to present to a grand jury and so on and so forth.
Plus, hey, Sam Bankman-Fried, he took regular people's money and a little bit of investor money. So, hey, who knows how that's going to work? He could either stay a billionaire or go to prison forever. He's like quantum superposition right now. Has anyone ever done both? That's just unheard of. He truly is a pioneer.
I'm sure that it's happened.
Maybe it'll just nullify out and the justice system will forget he exists.
I bet Charles Ponzi, he probably took money from really wealthy people as well as not wealthy people.
Oh, yeah. That's the whole scheme, isn't it?
It's named after him, Charles Ponzi. So anyway, maybe an episode on Charles Ponzi at some point in the future.
The Pons.
The man himself, the one who started it all. All right. Well, I guess thanks for tuning into this episode, everybody. And go watch others if you want more. Otherwise, stay tuned. We'll see you next time.
See, comment and like and do whatever that you want to do if you feel like it.
All that.
Bye-bye.